Good evening. Good evening. Happy Sunday to all of you. We're here for the UpSet podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tasha, and I have the crew with me as always. What's up, gang?
Hello,
Well,
family.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Good to
good to
see
see everybody. Good
everyone.
to see
Hey,
everybody.
hey, hey. And we are live tonight, so we look forward to your comments and everything that you have to say. Now, of course, we advertised that this week we would be talking about Thanksgiving versus Thanks taking, and
Mm.
we will be
That's
handling
potty
that
too.
subject. Yes, yes. But due to current events, we decided to take a shift tonight. We are called the Upset Podcast, and we want to talk about those things that we see are upsetting you, that are upsetting us, and kind of create a forum where we can talk about how we as Christians should feel about these things that are happening in the world around us, right? So, um, the interesting thing about it, even as we were preparing for this, guys, is that there's so many ways we could go when we're talking about the news and the things that we see happening around us. But Tally, go ahead and start us out. Let the people know what we're going to be talking about this evening.
Well, thank you, Tasha. In the spirit of flexibility, ladies and gentlemen, we thought that we would be remiss if we did not address what some might call the elephant in the room. Let's start with the facts of this case. On August the 25th of 2020, there was an uprising that took place in the small town of Kenosha, Wisconsin, whereupon a 17-year-old boy came across state lines from his home in Aurora, in Antioch, Illinois, rather, strapped to the gills with an AR-15 type assault weapon to provide what he considered would be first aid. I've never bought a rifle for first aid, but that's a whole nother situation. This young man, 17 years old at the time, Kyle Rittenhouse, entered into the fray of an uprising that occurred in the wake of the police shooting of a black man named Jacob Blake. And on that day, August the 25th, he encountered several other older gentlemen. And during the altercation, he shot three of them, killing two, grievously wounding one. A trial was held. That trial took place beginning on November the 1st, and Kyle Rittenhouse stood accused of the charges of 2 counts of homicide, 1 count of attempted homicide, 2 counts of reckless endangerment, 1 count of unlawful possession of a firearm, and 1 count of curfew violation. At the end of the trial, the jury of his peers decided that Kyle Rittenhouse, who was 17 years of age, carrying a loaded AR-15 type assault weapon, having carried it across state lines, purchasing it before he was old enough to do so, at a time when he was too young to be outside, that Kyle Rittenhouse was guilty of absolutely nothing. Since that time, there's been an
Mm.
uproar, and people are debating as to whether or not this trial demonstrates blatant racism, a level of neglect, a level of white preference, or rather it's simply self-defense. We as upsetters bring this discussion to you now, and I throw it to the team and say, what say ye one? What say ye all?
Mm.
Man, that was a great intro, Tally.
Yes,
I think we
man, that
do
was
Yeah,
have an
excellent.
expert tonight. That was
Mhm,
pretty
yeah, we
good,
do.
very thorough.
mhm.
I
That
Well,
don't
was
Mm.
think I
House
have to.
Rittenhouse.
I
I don't
fooled
think I have
five
to
more
say
people,
anything.
ladies and gentlemen. So
Well, if I can just start, I think to my family here, all of my co-hosts, I was the first to vent my frustration. I had been watching the case for I guess the past week and a half, and I'd seen much evidence and things that were brought out from both sides. And when I heard that verdict on Friday, and Friday I don't even watch TV, just keeping my mind ready for the next day when I'm about to preach. So I kind of pull away from the world a little bit. But it popped up on my CNN app on my phone, and I thought, what? Not a charge anywhere. And I felt so sorry for the families of the victims who felt, I mean, like their family members didn't matter, and even if if he had gotten away with the first guy, right? This is the first guy was, chasing him down. The others were bringing him down, trying to get the gun because he had shot someone already. So that was kind of them, defending the community so that there's no active shooter out there. And so I thought, what kind of a world is this where nothing happens? I mean, there is nothing that he didn't get 5 days. There was nothing. And now he's celebrated as a hero.
That is true. Clearly, we've got some overtones in our culture that we want to address. But let me ask a question. Those who were chasing him, trying to take his rifle, were they warranted for doing so?
Well, I think that, and they were not trying to shoot him because the
No, they
witness
were trying to apprehend him and take his
Absolutely.
weapon. Were they correct
Absolutely.
in doing so?
I would say
If they
yes.
felt
Wouldn't it
threatened
be
by him.
wouldn't it be the same thing? Remember when the woman was on the train and she was raped in front of everyone and no one did a thing? And we said, couldn't you have done something? Couldn't you have knocked the guy over, pinned him down? I mean, it's the same thing. If
Well,
they see someone in danger.
the reason I ask, and I'm in the unenviable position of being the advocate of Mephistopheles here, but the reason I ask is
Pull out
this.
your dictionary.
Does that mean the devil? I just wonder.
I didn't want to say his name, Chuck. But if someone shoots someone, it is not the obligation of citizens to effect an arrest. It is the obligation of citizens to go and get police officers to do that. And so, if we justify now, and look, I'm just bringing it to you as a legality. If we justify these men chasing a person that they perceive to have offended, to apprehend them and to take his weapon, they are acting as vigilantes. If we justify that.
Well, what about when they trained us? What about when they trained us to protect ourselves in church shootings? That you do something to distract the person, throw something at them, you fight them off by any means necessary. Isn't that the same thing?
No, because if well, I mean, not to equivocate, but no. And the reason is this: if you're protecting yourself while you're in your church, you are in your place of authority, and it is almost like an extended domicile. Someone has come into your place. If you're on a public street, then it is not your place to exercise that level of authority.
So if you're with your family and someone's out there attacking, you wouldn't protect your family and say, let the police handle it?
There's a difference between defending yourself to protect your family and chasing someone to apprehend them. I'm sharing, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on podcasts.
Right. You're playing right now.
Yeah.
And because I watched some of the jury and I thought, chase. The first guy was chasing. I thought the other two, they were all in the same vicinity. So they were just trying to get the gun from him. But anyway.
Listen, this is it's going to get dicey even as we go through this. And the reason why it's going to get dicey like this is because according to Wisconsin law, it's self-defense, and you have to prove that that he was defending himself. I don't think that's why we're mad, but I'll wait that out. I'm going to wait it out why I'm really upset. It's good when you can have a good back.
Come on, Cletus, tell us. Come on, Cletus, why are you really upset?
Okay, I'm upset because if it had been a black man that had killed black men, if it had been a black man that had killed white men, the verdict would have not been the same.
Okay.
Pat, if it had been a black man carrying that ARK, what was that? AKR, what is that thing? AR-15, right? That rifle. In the public with the police, he wouldn't be dead. I mean, he would be dead. There would be no need of a trial. He would be gone.
Let's back up a little bit. Why did this unrest happen in the first place? Let's just back up just a little bit. All right. G, you want to help me with that? I think you want to help me with that.
The police shot down a man and paralyzed him.
That's
A
it.
black man, a white police officer shot a black man, and so that was the reason for the protest. And
That
during
would be
these
Jacob
protests,
Blake.
as Tally mentioned,
Yeah.
yes, Jacob Blake. During these protests, people came to the city either to support the protest or to protect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
To protect
That's
property. Yeah.
yeah, but that's where my issue is. So we're supposed to believe that he was coming out there with the best intentions. One, to be a medic, and two, to protect a store of a friend. Like, so this is where our
No, he didn't
sympathies are
hit the
supposed.
person.
We're supposed to be sympathetic to his intentions, right?
Well,
Like,
actually,
he's
no.
17 years old. He's
I mean,
17. Like,
actually,
this is not a grown man. This is a boy. This is a kid.
Yeah.
his intentions for coming out there are somewhat secondary. I mean, and I say somewhat secondary because the self-defense mechanism can't be deployed if you create the circumstances that call for your response. What the jury obviously concluded is that he did not create the circumstances, and that's believable because the circumstances were existing when he got there. He simply injected himself into
Right.
the circumstances. So
Question,
why he
Tyler, Pharaoh.
came? Beg pardon?
I was gonna say, did George Zimmerman create a scenario where he needed to defend himself?
He did. He did, which is why his rotund rear end should be molding in the jail right now, and it isn't. But I mean, but that's a whole nother case. I mean,
White privilege.
this young man.
Pastor Tally, I want to go back to why I'm mad.
Yes, my son, please do.
No, and that's why I want to go back to it. I want to go back to it because when I was 13, 14 years old, we had Bernard Getz as the subway vigilante.
Oh yeah, I remember that case.
I remember that. I mean, we were afraid to play when I say play, we used to go through cars and all that kind of stuff. We was afraid because we didn't know who was going to shoot us just because they didn't like us or they didn't like what we were doing. And I think I forgot the number and I should have read through it, but he actually was acquitted for everything but a gun charge when we came down to it. And I think he shot like six people.
I know it was at least 5 grievously. Mm-hmm. You know, I think one. I mean, but the people that he shot were trying to rob him. There is that part of it. They were actually trying to rob him, but he was kind of looking for it.
He could have ran away. Okay,
he could have. There's no question. But on a moving subway car, your running away is limited by the fact that the subway got something to say about it. And look, I am not at all. Look, I think that this kid, should be put. They ought to build a sub basement in the jail and put him in that. I mean, but I'm looking at the legalities of it. The reason I share you're being upset, but the legalities of it say, and what you clearly saw were men chasing this 17-year-old with this rifle. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. Where I come from, we tended to not chase a lot of people with rifles because they might turn around,
right?
And the chase. And Kermit Hughes, who just checked in, said that he created the circumstance by bringing a gun to the location where there were no guns. There was a gun at the location. One of the individuals he shot had a gun, and so
the one that had his hand.
The second guy, not the first one, not the first one he killed.
I think the first one may have had a skateboard, a loaded skateboard.
No, the second one had a skateboard. The first one had no weapon.
Okay,
none.
Someone had a gun there. There's a brilliant young lady right there who said privilege makes you stupid. I mean,
I don't know.
This is a young lady, obviously, with perspicacity and good taste.
So, are we talking about worship or are we talking about gun law? What are we talking about? No, but Nick and gang, I hear what you're saying. There is privilege connected to this. And I go back to what Marlena said.
That's true.
If we walk that, remember now, it is legal for us to go to Walmart, buy a rifle, carry it on our back. We allowed to do that, right?
Yes.
We don't have Second Amendment rights as blacks.
Yeah, but we still allowed to.
In theory,
you don't have it, Chuck. Nick. No, you don't. You can tilt your head. No, you don't.
Well, Chuck and I remember when the Black Panther Party openly carried their weapons, and there was nothing that they can do about it. In fact, tomorrow I'll have a conversation with a guy named Maj Toure, who is the director of a group called Black Guns Matter.
Mm-hmm.
And he promotes the notion of carrying guns. And there are Black people that I know who carry their guns. In most of the state,
Are they
of Pennsylvania,
concealed under their sweater? Remember,
you need a license to carry a concealed gun.
Sure.
But in most of Pennsylvania, you can openly carry
Open carry state.
a gun.
Right.
Yeah.
In
So
Pennsylvania,
obviously, what I was saying was,
if you have an outside holster or
Yeah, you can carry
your leg, you can carry
you
your
can carry your gun.
gun.
You
Right.
know.
so
Daryl Hoy
how
killed
did Youngblood get to just carry the rifle out like that then?
Because it's legal to carry a long arm out in public that way. Now, the fact is that his age, it was not actually legal.
Right.
Because you're supposed to be 18
Right, he was
unless you have an
17 at the
adult with
time.
you. He was
Sure.
17 at the
Right.
time.
Right.
You know.
Mhm.
And he got away with it. And he also got away with it based on, I think they said the centimeters of the barrel was in question or something.
Yeah.
That, still, if my son carried like that, I mean, look what Daryl just said. Pastor Hoyce just said, that you're walking around with a military style. What I'm thinking about is, buckshot type stuff. That's what I'm thinking about. But you talking about military, and they're thanking them because they're showing up there to support the Blue Lives Matter. That's what they're doing.
Right.
They were patriots, right? He was considered a patriot.
Yeah. So that takes me.
And
No, please,
Okay.
Chuck. No, go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to say that unfortunately, because we're in a racially charged society right now, gun control is a major issue. The recent atrocities that's happened to African Americans and others all plays a part in our thinking and hashing out what conclusions we come to. And unfortunately, many mainstream media outlets don't help either by massaging the atmosphere that we are living in right now. And so any real facts gets overshadowed by conjecture, innuendo, opinion, contextual
lies, lies.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I can't speak to what actually happened. I haven't even watched the videos, not prepared to talk about that. But legal minds will say that the verdict was correct. Some legal minds will say that it was correct. He was, Oh, the other thing too, some of the stories that I did hear from mainstream media, they, in many cases, did not go out their way to say that the victims were white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you intentionally hold back that fact, you charge your audience by default. I think if they, in their reporting, said a white gunman kills 2 white people and wounds another white person, the thought, the reception of that news is processed differently. But we know that mainstream media uses certain language and certain narratives to stoke everyone. Now, I'm not saying this doesn't make Rittenhouse, innocent and whatever, but I just wanted to interject that aspect of it because we do get riled up, as I was riled up, and as Marlena clearly expressed on our messaging board that she was riled up, and rightly so. But we also have to keep in mind that there's a role that mainstream media is playing in this and manipulating. So many times they do not always report the truth as it is. They interpret and they try to sway towards their audience. I just wanted to inject that. I mean, it doesn't change the verdict or anything, but I'm just saying that we ought to also keep that in mind. I think the larger discussion should be gun control and the atmosphere that we have in this country, because more things like this are bound to happen.
That
But
that
if
was
I could just
exactly.
share real quick before you say something, Tally, and I appreciate what you said, Chuck. But the thing I did follow the case several days, and
Mhm.
what the issue was that this young man, to me, when you're running around and you're carrying a gun, I mean, it looks provocative,
Mhm.
and then you shoot someone who doesn't have a gun, and the looks like the guy was going away from him, and he shoots him. And so I don't, I wasn't, I mean, I knew they weren't black. I knew they weren't black, but my point is, if you allow people to now shoot someone in the name of, I was defending myself, and isn't that everyone's story? And so
Mhm.
You
where is the accountability? I mean, when every charge, couple of them are dropped for whatever reasons, right? I understand the gun, some little law that changed that, and then the charge with him being under 18 was dropped, and then this friend that bought him the gun was in Wisconsin, so we can't say it crossed state lines or whatever. I understand all of that, but when you can shoot people and nothing is done, and I think my other issue too is when Julius Jones is in jail and you know that he's innocent and it's proven that he's innocent, and the parole board says 2 times, that he needs to be taken off death row and paroled,
yeah.
but you don't want
Mhm.
to let innocent people out. But
Mhm.
you will take someone who just killed 2 people and say, hey, that he was defending himself. So my issue was, we have no justice still. So
Marlene,
so that's my issue.
Marlene, let me just back up for a second. There are many white men that are on trial now or whichever for shooting white people. The only reason why this is where it is now is because of the support
Mhm.
of Black Lives Matter. If we had, if he were doing this for something else, or this happened, during a state fair, or whatever the case might have been, we wouldn't hear about this right now. We're only hearing about it because, like Chuck said, the media needs something to sell. Right. So they're going to go ahead and push this thing and keep pushing this thing so that the ratings could go higher and higher and higher.
And they have.
When the truth
But
is
guys,
this,
it wasn't just the media pushing this.
well, that's the only way we
Uh,
know what's going on. It's well, let me say this first. Let me just say this. The the problem that I have, and I know we all have our thing. The problem that I have is, you could see the injustice if it were a Black man. That's what I want to be able to push. That if it were my son walking out with a rifle, in a legal standpoint, he would have been killed, shot, whatever the case may be by that time, or the gun would have been confiscated.
Mhm.
Let's
You
go to
certainly would have been thanked.
let's go to safe route. They would have at least taken it from him, even if it was legal. What we saw here is simply white privilege. That's the
Yep.
bottom line. We see, and it's not only happening with Rittenhouse, it's happening every day in every courtroom. Come on, a kid that sold drugs, that go to jail for 3-4 years,
Life.
and yeah, and then you got another
Black
kid
kid gets life. Mhm.
who's a white kid who sells drugs, and he gets probation, if that. It's the same concept. This is nothing new.
Mhm. Tally, why you
Tally's
smile?
smiling, boy.
I
Hey,
know. I'm like,
Pastor
why do you
Tally
have
being the devil.
that
But
look on his
anyway,
face?
It is there for sure. In the United States of America, you everything, it has to be parsed out under the rubric of race and racism. We know that. But what we cannot do is bring to the juridical system that deals with our court cases, that fact, and say this is how they had to be thinking because they're racist, because we don't know. And Charles made a point the other a few minutes ago, and said the real issue here is about guns. And I wanted to raise that here because the fastest growing segment of the gun purchasing public is Black women and Black people in general, but Black women
Mhm.
particularly. because we're at a point, and this is, the overarching thing about what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse is you're viewing a situation, and nothing makes people who are privileged more afraid than when the rules that protect their privilege break down.
Yep.
And you've got a group of people who are acting out of pocket. They are, you don't want to call it a riot because we like the cause. They were supporting Jacob Blake. But when you're setting fires and turning over cars, and sometimes, look, here in Philadelphia, I was out with other ministers, and folks were doing all sorts of stuff. And I remember one guy who was breaking into a place. I said, "Man, don't do that." He looked at me like he was going to get with me about it. Now that was rioting. I'm telling you right now. So the issue is when the laws break down, people then say, okay, now what is reasonable to do when laws break down? The idea of carrying this is the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. For a free state and its security, the people have the right to bear arms. When you are watching people in the street setting fires, the state is in jeopardy, and people have the right to bear arms. Or is that false?
No, they do have the right.
Marlena?
Don't
Pastor of Willow Grove?
Listen.
You want to stay mad.
Listen.
And you're right. I want to be mad. I want to be mad.
Yeah.
Anger can be your friend sometimes,
But listen, guys. I mean, listen. The guys that the
judge will direct the defendant to answer the question.
Were they burning down buildings? I mean, we know that there were, buildings and things being burned down. We do understand that. The people that he shot at, were they burning buildings?
The question is, when the laws have broken down and the state is jeopardized by a lack of legal behavior, do people have a right to bear arms? Marlena,
if you don't want to, you could please.
You know what? I said I wasn't going to answer any Tally's questions. Didn't we decide that? Because it's always a trap.
Right? Yeah. No, the way Tally, I get what you're saying. I'm scared of the future. I'm afraid.
I am too.
I'm afraid that we can't have a protest now in Washington, D.C. without West Virginia militia or someone showing up to come down there to protect whatever it is that they want to protect. And we're setting a precedence. I like what you said, Nick, because I'm a rules guy, right? Because in order to break the rules or to skirt around the rules, you have to know. You
have to know the rules. Yeah,
you got to know the rules. And he knew what he was doing from the time he left home, because he is in a companionship with people who says you can carry that. You got to do A, B, and C. No, you have to. The only thing he missed was his age. Otherwise than that, he could have walked away from everything, which he did anyway. Which he did walk
about
away.
that.
I had to say, he was walking away.
Right, he did walk away.
It's like I didn't do anything wrong.
I'm saying what jeopardized us here now. I'll put it this way, Nick. The rules ain't for us.
Exactly.
Now we let's all stipulate something.
Speak on that, GP.
That black people
the
have
Second
a break.
Amendment was not created with us in mind. It's not for us.
Sure.
Yeah.
And still not. I cannot.
That is not that's not true. The first part is it was not created with us in mind. But we have so negotiated and so addressed the inequities that we are now able to claim these constitutional rights that have been that were initially not for us because we were not considered full citizens or even full human beings. So, but now we can appropriate these things, and we will, and we have gone to court and won based on the guarantees of the Bill of Rights.
But, Tally, that's if you're alive to make it to the court.
I'm not talking.
What's his name? Philando.
Yeah, Philando Castile.
That was in the car. Right.
Castile.
He was in the car. Right. He's in the car. He's sitting in the car, and you says, "Hey, give me your registration." And he gets shot because he says, "I think he has a gun."
Yeah,
so he gets shot because
it was registered too.
Right,
it was registered. He legally held a gun,
Right.
It happens. I mean,
exactly what you said. He legally had a gun.
but the abuses under color of law happen. We know that. A few months ago in New Jersey, a white man was outside of his own house carrying a gun because he had heard somebody. The police came and shot him dead. He was white. And so these things happen all over the country. But that's not what we're discussing now. What we're discussing now is the right to bear arms. Now, is a lot of us look at that as an evil thing. Let me read some Bible.
No, I don't want to hear Bible.
That's yourself.
This is Psalm chapter 18. Psalm
ahead.
chapter 18 and verse 34. Blessed be the Lord who teaches my hands to make war, so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. Blessed be God who teaches my hands to make war. What does that passage say or suggest, fellow Christians here assembled?
I don't know.
David
Don't
was
ask
a
Pastor
warrior.
Marlena?
David was a warrior. He always had to fight in war.
1 second, Marlena, you don't have to answer him.
Right. I know his little trick.
You have the right to remain silent.
I know he's trying to catch me.
Yeah, he's coming to you because he
Me?
knows.
Yeah.
Come on, family out there, y'all help me. Y'all know how Pastor Tally is.
Because
But
right
so
now
David was a warrior.
this is the cry right now. The cry right now is for more black people to buy guns.
Right. To
And-
get ready
and-
for the race war.
And when Charles says the issue is about guns now, we have to address this issue. In a world where
Right.
things can break down, should we be armed?
Who's we?
Black
people.
people.
Yeah, no, you
Black
mean when you say we,
Niggas
you
children.
You're
mean
not talking to
Americans.
church.
You're talking about Americans.
No, I'm talking about
right? When you
black
say
people
should.
in America.
You're talking specifically
About
black
people
Americans.
in America.
Mhm.
Do we need
Okay.
because we are outgunned and outarmed when it comes. Let me tell you something. Bubba and Jim Bob and Earl,
They got 20. They got 50.
They
in
can't
their
get ready.
room.
let me tell you, if you see a pickup truck, you best believe, you don't tailgate a pickup truck because, you whip out your 9mm and Bubba said, Earl, he think this fight gonna only last 18 rounds. I mean, let me tell you.
Tell they can shoot you anyway because they'll say, I saw he had a gun. And they'll
That's
kill
true.
you.
That's what I
And
yeah.
then there's still no. There's oh well, he had a gun, and
Yeah.
so
Well, Kermit Hughes is playing that. He's beating that same drum. He says that the laws have been broken for black people from the start. If we bear arms, we will be shot by the state. That is not patently and irrevocably true. We
I
have to
understand.
acknowledge. Go ahead.
Tally, I agree. Again, I'm a lawman, right? Listen.
Oh,
Sounds like Tombstone.
We
Lawman.
read up on this.
gun smoke.
We talk about how, I remember going up to Pennsylvania because we work there, and sometimes we spend time up there on the grounds. And I remember going to the state police when our other police closed down, Chuck, closed for the night, right?
Right.
When Pine Forge closed for the night, we deal with the police. And I remember saying to state police, I said, I'm out here and I have to protect my children. And that time, we're talking about Camp Danny Davis. We have open road that goes right through, and I'm going to be out here protecting my kids. And because he knew me, or he knew us, I'm going to say us,
Right.
he knew us. He was like, hey, just make sure you carry it on your hip or whatever. Make sure if they're on the grounds, people should know this is private property. You can do whatever you want when it's private property. Now, that's because we live in an environment, we work in an environment where the state police know who we are by name. Let's just be realistic. They know who we are. I can't do that anywhere else. And I'm going to say this. I can't even do that on my own property. Much less. I'm talking about Pine Forest because we have all these acres. We can shoot animals. We can do whatever we want to do. But on my own property, I bear arms. I do have a projectile in my life.
Like 20 of them, right?
Ah,
I have a projectile.
We didn't think you meant that you were just wearing a T-shirt with no sleeves on it when you said you bear arms. We figured out what you meant. I have a projectile.
You try and scare somebody away with that line. All right, stay there. I got a projectile.
I have a projectile.
No, my mother is listening, and she absolutely.
Pat, do you strap it on while you're preaching?
No, but it's here. It's right here. And the thing about it is that my parents.
You better have on a gun and then have holy shoes at the same time.
Here we go. You know, it's got to be the upsetters.
Excellent, Marlena. Excellent.
Touche.
I really
I'm keeping score.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. We'll wait till we come up with another one. I'm gonna be ready for all of you.
You know,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say,
let me just.
I'm just trying to roll on the humor here. Unless they're James Bond shoes that have guns built in.
Oh no.
Oh, Terry's like, good one, Marlena. And for anybody who don't know what they're talking about, just go back a couple of episodes. There's
Our worship
worship episode. I'm afraid to pull my gun even in my own house. I ask myself the question,
And you should.
why do I have it?
Yeah.
I really ask myself, because let me tell you, in my classes, they tell you that you cannot shoot to maim.
Oh,
You're shooting to kill.
Yep.
Right now, as a Christian, you have to ask yourself this question: wow, somebody come in my house, I'm going to shoot him in his leg so that he'll never learn not to do that again. And then they sue you. They can civilly sue you, if that's a word, civilly, right? If civil, they can sue
you in civil court, right?
They can sue me in civil court for not kill. My teacher told me, bring them back in the house and kill them, so that they don't take your house from you.
I had a police officer say the same thing.
Wow.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Now I have to think to myself, I'm walking with a firearm. The firearm that I'm walking with is to do one thing and one thing only.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is to kill. There's no other, not even to frighten somebody. It's to kill. So I look at that and I say, as a black man, if I live in Bowie, if there's an unrest in my neighborhood and people are on my property, tearing up my property and doing this with that, I am literally afraid to take my gun out and be like, get out from around here. No,
you can't do that. I mean,
no.
It's a catch-22.
Yep.
Well, I mean, so as Christians, should we participate? Well, we already know that, Pistol Packing Pete over here is one of our pastors. So as Christians, should we participate in a society that is beginning to arm itself because of fear? I mean, that's really what it's all about. We're afraid. Somebody wrote that the Constitution is going to be done away with, and I know that's a part of our thinking. But the fact of the matter is that the people who are doing most of the shooting, are doing it in the name of the Constitution. They want it,
right?
And I see Pastor Dario Hoy, when she said, "I'll be your Huckleberry," that she watches a very good Western movie there, Pastor. You just revealed. Should we participate in it? For example, should we have a cabinet of guns on the conference grounds?
Definitely. I hope so.
Never mind.
Okay.
Well,
I'm just smiling, guys. I'm just
cabinet.
A lot of things have to be discussed contextually, because there are situations where gun owners, they're either collecting them or they have no intention of killing anyone. Some of them use them for hunting, and because that's what guns are designed for, to kill things.
And sport, and sport.
Right.
I have to remember
and sport
is also sport, not killing things, but hitting targets, etc.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it's very difficult to even discuss the subject, because back a few years ago, when there was a rash of killings in churches, I've read articles where churches started getting professionally trained security agency agents to be in their churches during service. I saw a video produced by one mega church, and their ushers look like Secret Service. They have the earphone in their ear, and they're walking around. They look very,
West used to look like that.
Right.
And DuPont Park.
Yeah.
DuPont Park was like that. You can walk in DuPont Park during offering time.
So it changed. It's not like that anymore.
Well,
which one, West?
Well, West End.
Yeah,
And
West changed. It became too much of a police state for the people.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I did read a story some years back where an usher, a female usher in this very large church, opened fire on a person who threatened the pastor and was going down the center aisle
Bless the Lord.
with a weapon. She opened fire and took him out in the sanctuary, if you can imagine the horror of that.
Yeah.
But here now, because of our culture in our nation, churches are fully armed.
definitely.
And that's a sad state
Target.
of affairs.
In Washington,
We should be.
and in Maryland. I'm sorry, Chuck. In Washington D.C., Maryland. I know we kind of flip, but if you're a business owner and a pastor, you can get a concealed quicker.
Yeah,
a pastor, you can conceal quicker than the average person who's probably they're saying that for your protection and because they believe you carry money or around money, they allow your pastor to be able.
They obviously don't know Allegheny East pastors.
Let me ask, because I'm not as up on the story as you guys are. Was Kyle Rittenhouse licensed to carry that weapon?
You don't need a license to carry a long arm.
Right.
Okay. So, but
he was underaged.
Was he of the age to purchase the firearm?
No.
Not
so.
He can carry it. 16 and 17 years old, he can. What happened is that he bought it cross state line.
No, I thought his friend bought it within the state. That's what was disclosed.
He carried it across state lines. He's
16 and 17 and own a firearm. Is it own a firearm? 16, 17 in Wisconsin, and not Wisconsin. Where's he from? Illinois.
He's from Illinois.
Yeah, he's from Illinois.
He's from Antioch, Illinois, and he crossed the line into Wisconsin.
Right.
You know, his beloved mother drove him there and dropped him off.
Beloved mother
said, you know, have fun with the boys, and went on and carried his peanut butter sandwich and his AR-15 to the picnic.
See, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stay mad because everything is wrong about that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
My mom said she didn't know he was going. He was going anywhere near there.
4 hours away.
So was he supposed to be doing something else?
Yeah, he was going to McDonald's with an AR-15. I mean, I mean, the mother knew. I mean, look, they wanted, but the real question in this court case is, did he have a right to? Did he have a reasonable right to self-defense?
Right.
And
that's where the line is drawn. It doesn't matter about our opinion.
I still think he
doesn't matter
provoked
what it. According to the law, he could not purchase, but could carry. An adult purchased it for him.
The boyfriend.
I don't know who that lady is. Is there any way we can keep it
She's come with facts.
Leave my Elder Williams alone.
The key to all of this is, I know I'm mad, and I know some of us who are listening are upset about this, but according to the law, he made it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And that speaks to my point about how we're massaged by mainstream media. As much as we are all angry about the outcome of this, and rightly so, because of the climate that we're in, when you get the facts according to the case, then you have to go with the facts of the case. Okay. So, and another thing I want to speak to that also involves media, we need to be careful how we're misled by media. And this is in no way exonerating, Rittenhouse and, this whole case. But sometimes we can be led down this path of misconception by media. Let me give you an example. My son, he knew I was trying to rush study for this program tonight. My son shared with me a case in, this was in Florida, Indian River County in Florida. And the headline reads, there was a case against a gentleman by the name of Andrew Coffey, a black man, found not guilty. Yeah, right. Found not guilty on all counts of murder, attempted first-degree murder. found not guilty. A black man. Okay. So the details of the case is that the sheriffs broke in to his home. He had a legal weapon for protection. They claimed that they announced that they were, county sheriffs, and they were there to make sure they understood that this was the police. And he attempted to, not knowing, this sounds similar to Breonna Taylor's case, not knowing exactly who was coming in the house, because, sometimes when they do these break-ins and they say, hey, this is the police, he had a gun and he fired at whoever he thought was coming in. His girlfriend was in the apartment or the house where all this took place. She got caught in the crossfire between him and the sheriffs. She took 10 shots and died.
Wow. So
they tried to prosecute him on firing at the sheriffs and, attempted murder, so forth and so on. And he was trying to protect himself. At that moment, he was trying to protect himself. Well, at the end of the day, I'm sure there are more details to it. The court found him not guilty of any of the charges.
Yep, I see it.
Now here's my point here. That did not make CNN headline news.
That's right.
That did not make MSN news. So my point is, they report what they want.
You forgot one main station. Talk about that one too.
Which one?
Fox.
Fox as well. Yes. So I'm just kind of adding to my point about we should be careful how we receive the information from mainstream media. You need to cross-reference the facts. It's a good thing to follow, as you did, Marlena. You followed the case. You saw the video. So you can come to the conclusion, even with the atmosphere that we have with racializing and politicizing things that are happening to us. But it's always good. I think it's the responsibility of us as Americans and as Christians to get the facts and then address how it is interpreted to the public. Because this, I think, this story is what, a day old, two or 3 days old.
Yeah.
And this was an incident that took place in 2017. So I'm thinking, if I were a reporter, I would have said, yes, here's Kyle Rittenhouse's story, but here's another story where a black man was completely exonerated and a death was involved.
Yeah.
Okay, the case is not exactly the same, but if it comes to, well, if it was a black man, he'd have gone to jail. Okay, well, here's a situation where a black man could have gone to jail, but didn't.
Yeah, I know another one where he did go to jail. You remember the story of the guy? He was just sentenced to death row. I preached on that. I think it was the end of last year. He was with his friend, and his friend was a drug dealer, and the police did a bust like wee hours of the morning. And so the guy shot, and he didn't know who it was. And so the one friend, Brian something, I think, he ran out of the house. Well, because Brian was there, he was also sentenced to death. Both of them were sentenced to death. Yet he shot, the police busting through his house, and the defense that they said for the young man who ran, they said, well, you were there and you knew what he was going to do. And the shooter, who I think the guy ended up killing like maybe 3 police. And the guy says, I didn't know I was going to kill anybody that night. And so he didn't know that because, no one knew that would happen. But in that case, both of them were sentenced to death.
Wow.
And one was not the shooter. And the young guy, he accepted the Lord Jesus before. I think his family were Adventists or something. I'll get his name and
Yeah,
he accepted
I know the
Christ.
case
Remember
you're
that
talking
story?
about.
Mhm.
Yes, I do.
And
Yes, I
so,
do.
they busted in at night. Everyone was asleep, and they
Right,
didn't know, who it was. When you're a drug dealer, you don't know who's coming
right,
to your house,
Yep.
but
right.
they didn't care about that. They
Yeah,
sentenced him. So
and
you have
almost
some stories, yes.
yeah, and also keep in mind that we know that our justice system is not fair through and through. We know
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
So we have gun laws that has us Dodge City, and then we have a justice system that's not exactly perfect.
Right.
Mhm.
And then we have racialization of our issues, our social issues. In essence, we're in a mess.
Hot
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah.
And now also too, what is that? They're trying to carry their concealed weapons everywhere now,
There was
or open weapons,
there
right?
was a bill that was passed by the House this past week in the state of Pennsylvania that would allow for concealed carry, but the governor is vetoing it.
Mm,
He's going to
mm,
veto
Oh, okay.
it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I mean, but there are people, but as one legislator said, well, if you've got a gun and it's legal to carry it, why is it illegal if you just put a jacket over it? And so there's logic. The issue with us, and it's a meaningful issue, is that we recognize that laws are not equal. I mean, that they don't get
Right.
applied equally. And so
Mhm.
we have to ask ourselves the question, do we want the same entitlements, or do we want people to be white people to be treated as unfairly as it appears that we've been treated? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves.
And Nick, not just people, but also geographically, where you are. There are different laws depending
Oh,
on
no question.
Right. I was going to say,
Right.
you need to know that.
and look where Washington D.C. is in the middle of Virginia and Maryland, right? In the
And
middle.
Virginia, Maryland, Delaware,
Yeah, right. And the laws that you going into DC for gun laws is different. I mean, you could be driving through and hit a block and be pulled over by the police, and it's totally a different,
mhm,
totally
mhm,
different. So there should be some type of federal thing.
mhm.
Again,
Yeah.
we also need to go back to the beginning of when the amendments were written.
Mhm.
I understand it wasn't written for us. We
Right.
also have to
Right.
think it was,
Right.
it was to protect their land. It was to protect
Mhm.
this is that.
Mhm.
And we weren't a part of that. And still, as time goes on, we're still not a part of. No. We are a part of it now, but it's still a prejudice.
Mhm.
So I agree with Nick because he's coming after me now for saying we're not a part.
Mhm.
No, we are. We are
Well,
a part of it.
Yeah, number
I'm
two.
not coming at not after what you said earlier. I'll never come after you again.
But
Is that Chuck? Is there any way we could press a
yeah,
button and censor?
right. No. If anything, Latasha has that control. She has master control. But you know what? I want to ask a larger question.
Oh, before
As
you do that,
Christ,
you just put Carrie's up real quick. You gotta put
what?
that up. Yeah, it was to protect their property.
Which was
Which-
us. Yeah.
Mercy.
Mm. Mm.
Oh man.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I want to ask a larger question. As Christ-centered individuals,
Mhm.
where do we stand with addressing these social injustices that we've mentioned?
Good question.
All right, because so we, as individuals, we can rant and rave,
Mhm.
but would any of our churches, go out to Home Depot and get some cardboard and some sticks and some paint and paint protesting signs and go out and protest injustices? Do we see ourselves? We can see ourselves as individuals because I'm sure there are Seventh-day Adventists and any other Christian that go out and protest against these things. Do we see ourselves doing that? And if we do, why aren't we?
I got a call. I was supposed to be on Thursday. I was supposed to be in Brunswick, Jersey, with a group of other ministers protesting that defense attorney who said we don't want any more black preachers
Mhm.
in this courtroom.
Right.
I got a call from one of the leading social activists out of this area, Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler, who was a pastor of Mother Bethel AME and just, I mean, a world-class activist. He said, "Hey, Nick," he said, "I saw your guys down there. There were a group of Seventh-day Adventist ministers with a banner
Mhm.
saying,
Yeah.
Seventh-day Adventist pastors, we stand for justice for Ahmaud Arbery." And so I think we've come a long way from the 1960s when the General Conference told us not to march with Martin Luther King, in the 1990s when when the brethren said that we shouldn't go to the Million Man March, and now I think we're becoming a lot more active and a lot more willing to engage.
Mm-hmm. But there's still the other side.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go
What's
ahead.
the other side? What's the
No,
other
I'm saying
side?
there's still some of us who
Yeah.
believe that we should stay out of these things.
Right,
Yeah, somebody was quoting
Right.
Ellen White saying that we should stay,
Mhm.
that social political issues we should not be a part of. And I wrote back to them. I said, I've always, she may have very well said that. I've always felt funny about Martin Luther King and Frederick Douglass, just because of that. I mean, I don't know if she said it or not. Right is right. The Bible is filled.
Right.
As a matter of fact, Dr.
Yeah.
Calvin Rock is writing a book right now about social justice in the Bible.
Listen, it's all over. Jesus died because of social justice. Period.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, that is the main factor. But even with that, Sister White herself got the Morning Star with her son to go down the Mississippi River for justice of Black people. So I don't even get that, and many more. So my thing is whoever, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my understanding, help me. I understand.
So I think we should be educated.
Yeah. I like
think
what
we should be
Pastor
educated.
Hoy
We
has
don't.
said, but
Did a
sorry, go
minister
ahead,
say
Chuck.
something
Go ahead.
about this case, though? Did a minister say something about this particular case? One of our ministers?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the case. It was speaking about something else. But along the same line as social justice, and then it ran back that we should not be in any of this because Ellen G. White said coming out of whatever so and so page, so and so, this, that, and the other. And all I know is that I had to silence my email after that because it just kept rolling. Like what? And so
well, we have Charles on his last podcast here.
Just look at the nose.
Well,
look at the nose.
Well, I think that
her name was Ellen G. Black, huh?
Yeah, I just think that she. Well, I was told she was Dutch, but that's another podcast.
Dutch chocolate.
Yeah, good point. Nice save. I think that though it would be helpful for, and I guess this is why the organization Parle is in existence. I think as Christians, as much as we study the Bible and understand our place in society right now when it comes to preaching the word and helping individuals, I think we should be well versed in the Constitution and understand your laws, because the old saying is, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any.
Yep.
And I think we should be, we should study that. I'm not suggesting that we, go to a course, but at least encourage our members to read the Constitution, understand what the rights are, even understand what your rights are locally. Because if you're going to protest and you're going to respond, it should be intelligent. And not based on how I feel.
My last comment is actually in the form of a question, and that is this: at our next camp meeting, should we have armed guards who are a part of our security, so that people who might think about taking advantage of religious
Negroes
people gathering, out in the woods, that they might think twice about it, because that is self-defense and necessary for a free state? Is that something we should do?
We do have
that.
I've always believed we should.
We have armed guards?
We do. Yes, we do.
With their weapons displayed?
Yes.
Yeah, I know he normally used to cover President Fordham, right? Didn't he? Was he armed? He wasn't armed.
Fordham had his own. We're talking.
We're professionally trained police officers off duty who were deputized by the Douglasville Police Department.
Oh, okay.
And they do carry, and they can, if they have to do it, they will.
Okay.
Yeah, they will. That's why.
No, there are some people that protest, especially when they see the sidearms. They say, they shouldn't be walking around with guns, and okay, well, yeah, we understand that, and it can be a little, disturbing, but the reality is, if someone comes on the campground with the intention to hurt campers, maybe an active shooter, I think I would feel a little better with a professionally trained law enforcement officer who can do the job of lessening, death and
Either
destruction.
that or Pat,
You don't have to on me because that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. But I have to say, I know this was close to the gun control that we said that we wanted to talk about. What I think is still important for us to talk about, because we only scratched the surface. We are mad. I'm not going to use the word mad. There's this ambivalence to what we just heard and what we saw, and I agree with Chuck. We got to read more. We got to be able to look at all sides, because we still haven't heard all sides. I need to make it to the kingdom, so I'm not going to hate this kid, but I do have a problem with our system as it relates to young black men in the same exact situation. I'm going to try to call out the exact, because Chuck, that was a good point that you brought up. I looked it up with this coffee guy, and I'm glad that he made it through, but all of us don't either. So honestly and truly, I thought it was good that we switched up and discussed this, because no one's really talking about it. Even if we needed people to understand that, hey, voice what you feel. Can I do this for a second, producer? Just, we have people in the chat right now. I just want to ask
Packing pastors,
guilty or not guilty. Just put it in the chat. I just want to know, guilty or not guilty. And Nick, or those who say guilty, Nick, please do not say anything to them. We just want them to put it in the chat. Producer, can we just allow them to do that real quick? I want to see what they're thinking.
While that's coming in, I'm going to put up this comment.
But what do we do with Jesus refusing to respond with violence to violence in the Garden of Gethsemane?
We remember that he told his apostles when he said, last time I sent you out, I said, don't take any sword. What y'all got now? Said, we got a couple. He said, that might hold you. So that's what we do.
I see you, Dr. D.
All right.
D said guilty. Yeah, I see it. I see it coming in.
This is guilt on you, Pat?
No.
This is for carrying, right? You want to know how many people carry?
Well, no, it's guilt. Whether Rittenhouse guilty, not guilty.
Your observation.
Was guilty is guilty of sin.
Yeah, I think it was guilty. I mean, I watched the case, and this kid didn't have any remorse, even when he did that little cry thing.
That little cry.
That was horrible.
I mean, I watched him, because when you squint, at least a tear will squeeze out. You had to wipe your face. None of that happened, and
you even know how to do the altar call cry yet.
I mean, I understand what's legal to protect yourself, but
what is that text about? That judge not text?
I'm not judging.
Well,
I saw him on the video. I'm not judging.
I know you saw him on the video.
I saw him with my own eyes. I wasn't judging.
True. and then I think another question I'd like to talk before we end is, should Nick retire this year? Yes, if we could put it in there. No, yes, that
he was guilty. And you're still
talking about
no. I know
talking about Rittenhouse, but
Pastor has it guilty in intent, but not guilty in legal technical.
That's where I am with it.
That's
yes.
Yes, there are a lot of things that I assume.
Right, and that's the point I wanted to make too.
Yeah. He said that cry he did was a SNL special.
I agree with Kermit Hughes. We pray that he is saved. I'm sure he was scared being in a courtroom. Look, I've been in court for a parking ticket, and I was scared, and I'm sure he was scared, and he should have been scared. The guys who chased him should not have chased him. Chasing a guy with an AR-15 is just not a good idea. Not a good idea, and they didn't think he would shoot.
Yep.
And he showed them otherwise.
Yep.
I think that we also should keep in mind, again, bringing it around to Christ-centered individuals. We need to keep in our prayers the families of those that were killed. They are hurting. I'm sure that it is an incredible thing to go through. And I think Kyle Rittenhouse is unfortunately a symbol of the terrible condition that this country is in, that we, would allow this to happen. It's going to happen again, and there are many more Kyles out there who are waiting for the opportunity to do exactly what he
in
did.
Georgia. We got another one. It just may happen in Georgia. But and he's a kid, right? He just turned 18, and so when you don't have good counsel
Sense.
and good counsel and good advice, right? So if there's a nation that celebrates what you did, how can you learn from that? When you can easily take life and say, I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, if I kill somebody, I'm weeping for the rest of my days because you took a life. And he shoots two and just says, I didn't do anything wrong. I was
people are
defending
supporting
myself.
him and giving him,
Well, he's become a political pawn. I mean, look, he's a 17-year-old kid. He doesn't know one part of his anatomy from his elbow, and as such, that's your elbow.
Oh, he was just referring to the kid, Pat, not you.
I mean, and so, we assign to him certain levels of mature consideration that he really doesn't have. I mean, he was a kid with a gun trying to get in, go see what the action was, and he got in way over his head. And Carrie Lawrence Williams said that they should have arrested his mom. And that's true. The mother should be cited. For what she did.
Fuck up the mother and get rid of the judge. Wow.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the judge, but that's that judge.
I think it's time. I think it's time for the organ. I mean, all these comments. Log them up.
I like Kermit Hughes. I don't know if you can find it. And I'm just so grateful we have. I don't know what to call them. Are they upsetters too? If they're with us,
they're upsetters.
UpSet fam.
UpSet fam, because he said it. He said, "Thank you. This was too interesting. I should have been working now. Now I have to work late. No, the other one. Now you have to work late. Forget I still pray for him. You got to work now.
That's right. He is a soul to be saved. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That is true.
That's how we have to look at all things.
But listen, they often feel that they're already Christians.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
They feel that.
Of course.
They feel that way, my brother. So
he might
say, "I'm already saved."
God and guns.
Yep.
That's right. God and guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, if Kyle Rittenhouse, Marlena, were to come in your church and visit, how would he be treated, do you think?
Mercy.
Oh, even if I saw the kid today, I say, "Hey, how you doing?" I don't hate the kid, and even I mean, I have teenage boys, and we got children that do dumb stuff, right? And I did want mercy for the kid, but I felt he should have learned a lesson of something. They didn't give him a day, and so it's like whatever you did was okay, and then when it's celebrated, and so much more to say. I mean, you got a similar case in Georgia where, people feel like, hey, it was self-defense. We want to make sure no one was stealing in our neighborhood, And so even though you kind of caused something, but then if the person says, but I really feared that I was going to be shot, he was holding my gun. I really feared it. I mean, how can we escape this? Now, anybody can shoot us and say it was self-defense, and we have no justice. And the same thing is
not what happened in this case. I mean, look, let's be fair. Let's be accurate. That's not what happened in this case. It wasn't like somebody walked up and shot somebody. This kid should not have been there. He shouldn't have had a gun, but he was there, and he was chased by grown men. And he shouldn't have been there, and he shouldn't have had a gun, but he was chased by grown men. Let's be accurate at least.
True. Okay, the first guy. So if you
the others were chasing him as well. He didn't pursue anybody.
Right. The second guy though that he shot was only trying to take the gun,
which meant that the guy was coming after him. I mean, if it's my gun and you're trying to take it,
right? He was on the ground.
Yeah, if it's my gun and I'm on the ground and you're trying to take it, then
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
I'm
understand
not
some.
defending
I understand some.
the
I
action. I'm
understand
just
some cleaners are waiting to get on to clean.
Yeah, yeah. I think we got
Okay.
Yeah, we've already landed, but
And
we're still
that's
on
all
the
right.
plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
This is one
We're
of
on the
those
tarmac.
discussions that's hard to leave.
It's hard to let
not
go.
being
Right.
I'm
upset.
glad we only did
Mhm.
40 minutes and switched to another topic, like Pat said.
Right. But I think it's
Yeah.
important in the context
Yeah.
of what we do here to bring these kinds of issues to
Yeah.
our audience and to, the church at large, because we can't live in an Adventist bubble. We just
Mhm.
can't. We've got to discuss it.
Yep.
And we need to bring it to our churches for discussion, because there's a spiritual lesson here as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm done. I've
Done with you.
That's my final comment.
Yes, and like you said, we have to. In talking about it, we process. Even just
Mhm.
listening to this discussion, I processed so many things that were in my head about this whole situation. What do I need to change? What laws were I not aware of before? Because I'm like, of course, he shouldn't be able to do that. Well, actually, according to section such, oh well, he can.
Yeah,
So there's so
Right.
much that we can learn from these things, these discussions, knowing the laws, reading the facts, not being.
Should I get a larger gun?
Right. Not being swayed by the media and hyped up, making sure we're not victims of the hype. And so hopefully we can learn some of those things from this. But
Right.
we have to admit the implications are still a little scary, and we can't ignore that as well.
They are. Mhm.
All right, everyone. Thank you. See, I should not look at the
what's the
comments when I'm
spiritual
trying to
lesson?
close.
Yeah.
See, this is where we go wrong, because
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the spiritual lesson.
The spiritual lesson is open
That is
season on
not
us.
the
It's open
spiritual
season on us. That's a fact.
it's not, but it does tell us we need to pray hard. We need to pray because see, everybody's still riled up, guys. I mean,
Yeah,
And try to
Yeah.
it's Nick's fault.
yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's a lot to process.
Nick,
But
It really
while
is.
we're live, can you show us your gun, Nick? Can you show it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And it's gonna
Well,
be
I do think we probably need to do a show on the gun violence and the gun laws,
mhm.
because many of us, some of our listeners may own guns, but we just need to be educated on the ownership and the intent, purpose, and
Yeah.
So you don't get yourself, what's happening in your state, as Pat mentioned earlier. So there's so many things. So maybe we will come back with that one at another time. And we do want to.
But I like Daphne's point. It's open season on us. He shot 3 white guys.
who were defending our cause.
He shot 3 white guys.
producer.
But they were. But I'm with
go.
Sister Daphne, because you
Landed.
know why they shot the 3. I mean, the 3 guys that were out there were protesting on behalf of the Black Lives Matter. So if it wasn't that, then we probably wouldn't have all this hype anyway. But Black Lives Matters, they're so against it because, some people were burning down. I don't agree with that, burning, people's property and destroying them. I think that's a terrible thing. But as many of the Black Lives Matter protesters would state, there were other people who were just coming out destroying things, and they weren't even a part of them. But to society, the news, as Chuck was saying, was putting out, it was the Black Lives Matter people, and so all of it's all of that hype in it all by itself, that the 3 white guys were out there in support of Black Lives Matter. So it's like the 3 that were killed with the Mississippi burning, they were coming out to help out. And so it's all lumped in there together. That's why I agree with Daphne. They are out to get us. They are.
Yeah. So this is completely off topic, but maybe next camp meeting at Pine Forge, Pennsylvania, maybe we can have a gun range and some courses for our constituents.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Maybe they can get licensed in
my.
their respective
No, that won't happen.
We can barely
my.
paintball. We can play paintball without getting some backlash.
Yeah.
So
And have one of the kids shot by stray bullet, really?
No,
Yeah,
we have lots of land. We have lots of land. We can do it safely.
Well,
We have lots
trust
of
me, if that gets around in this community, which is a Ku Klux Klan hotspot,
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good idea.
I mean, seriously, that is the case. If they would have learned that we were doing something, they would characterize that as okay, it's on.
Open season.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we don't want to incite anything that we don't need to.
Just thinking out loud. I'm sorry for.
yeah,
No,
Just know that will not be part of the
camp meeting. Can you imagine that being a seminar?
Yeah. In times preparation.
Yeah. That's probably,
Just shoot.
Boy, that changes the meaning of the book title, Preparation for the Final Crisis.
Come on now.
mercy. Help us. All right, guys.
I'm sorry.
The executive producer, you need to, they're trying to get this plane to the terminal.
Who knew that this, well, I didn't.
On his stomach, just crawling with a gun in his hand on one of those courses, gun courses. You think you could do it, Nick?
What happened to that scripture? You live by the sword, you die by the sword. I don't know. What does that imply? What does it imply?
Marlena,
what does it imply?
You guys want to stay here all night? Listen,
that's just food for thought. Why is it in there? I don't know. Why is it in there?
Right.
I
think, though, seriously, though, I think we really need to keep this matter a matter of prayer, because we've got some rough roads ahead of us politically, socially, in this country. So we really need to be on top of what's going on and pray about it, and instruct your family and your churches so we're not caught off guard.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Be informed, be involved. It's important who your judge is in your community. It's important to vote. It's important to know the laws of your land. Yeah. So we got to be involved, folks.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right.
Exec PD.
I won't say another word.
We are we're saying good night, but before we do, we'd like to always invite those who want to share something with us that maybe you didn't want to put in the comments, the chat. Please email us at upset@acsda.com. Just know, we're wrapping up this season. Next year, we're planning for a whole new set of programming, but we want to talk about those things that you want to talk about. So if there's something upsetting you, a topic that you want to see this group cover, please email us. Let us know. We're trying our best to incorporate all of those things. So, and don't forget to share this podcast with someone else. Those who listen to podcasts, we're on all
right. And please tell them that it's not about Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we'll change.
We're gonna have to change the thumbnail, right?
But we will talk about that at some point. All right, crew. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for tackling the subject that's still unsettling to all of us. And thank you, all of you guys out there. We enjoy the comments.
Yes,
we enjoy
interacting
with all of you. And thank you guys for watching and always supporting us.
Good to see you, Pearl Wise.
Hey guys, don't forget to talk about Pat all week. Pastor Graham. Holy shoes and carrying a gun.
Shoes. Oh no!
Thank you from the Indian. Oh yes.
Pat, you really have.
We're gonna.
You really have tough skin, Pat. You really do.
It's
someone else would have turned off their camera by now.
Comes from wearing those shoes.
I was in my Pathfinder uniform and my Pathfinder shoes, so I ain't all this week. I needed to wear those.
Hashtag
preaching and packing.
You guys
go ahead, man. Let's go ahead and press this thing.
Natasha, hit the button.
I know, it's like
no. You should let Pat pray to redeem himself. Let Pat pray.
But guys, remember, this is the last podcast before Thanksgiving, so we do want to wish everyone
absolutely
happy Thanksgiving.
We have a lot to be grateful for. Don't forget to count your blessings, name them one by one. All right, guys, and we're blessed to have you watch us, and we're going to be blessed to say good night. Thank you. We'll see you next week, 6 p.m.
Bye-bye.
Take care,
guys.
Take care, everybody.
Be blessed.